everybody, and welcome back to Carolina Creepers on Oddities Radio. My name's Chris. I'm your host today, and my co-host is Jay. Say hey, Jay.
Hey, Jay.
Haha, funny.
I thought it was. Happy anniversary.
Yeah. Yesterday was the anniversary of our fire podcast.
Yeah, it sure was. And it wasn't but like a week later, we did our first Carolina Creepers podcast.
Can't believe it's been a year already.
I'm telling you, time flies when you're having fun.
Time flies.
Yeah, time fun's when you're having flies. So, how you doing today?
Not awful, not too bad. Just trying to get all this stuff together, and it's quite a bit
I
of
hear
stuff to
you.
deal with.
I hear you. Folks, big props go to Chris because he's the technical wizard of the show. And I mean, if it was left up to me, God only knows what would happen. We'd probably wind up getting the Playboy channel or something. I don't know, but um, if it wasn't for him, the show we wouldn't have a show. So big props to you, my brother.
Golf clap.
Golf clap, absolutely.
So anyway, Jay, what do we
Um,
have in store for the fine listeners today?
well, creepers and creepettes. Uh, we've talked about it and talked about it. We keep saying we're going to do it. Well, today we're going to do it.
Can you
Chris, can you
can
remember?
you repeat that again? Battleship North Carolina, right?
Yes, sir. Battle USS North Carolina. Can you remember the first time you were? Did you ever went and seen the ship?
Oh, I grew up in North Carolina. I didn't live there, but my dad lived in Wilmington my whole life when I was a kid. So I was there every summer, literally, seeing him, spending the summer with him. So honestly, I don't remember the very first time I saw it, but I've seen it lots of times as a kid.
The first time I ever seen it was during Easter break in 1978. I was 8 years old. My mom and dad took me down there, and at the time, it was the biggest thing that I'd ever seen. Um, and come to find out, a little bit later on, when I, was reading the history of the North Carolina and uh, seeing the names of the people who served on board the North Carolina. I actually had a great uncle on my dad's side of the family and a great uncle on my mother's side of the family that served on board the North Carolina. And the funny thing of it is, until my mom and dad met and got married, these two gentlemen had never met because they said the ship was so big that if you were stationed in one part of the ship and uh, someone else stationed in another part, you never
Never even met.
exactly never met, never had any kind of a conversation. So they didn't know until a little bit later on that both of them had actually served on
Right.
board, which I thought was kind of very interesting. And due to you know family ties on board the ship, it kind of has a special soft spot in my heart, maybe for lack of better words. Um,
Right.
and every chance I get, I go and visit the ship. Unfortunately, with the way my health has deteriorated as far as being able to walk, the only thing I get to do now is go and sit on the little observation deck there at the gift shop and look at her from the outside. But hey, anything's better than nothing. And
Uh, Last time I went, they had it to where it was wheelchair accessible, at least on deck of the ship. I don't know if you could get down, down underneath in the bowels of it, but
yeah, only unless they put an elevator in, and I don't think they've done that. Now, one thing that they have done is they built that boardwalk. It goes all the way around the ship, and you can walk around her and see her from all sides on the outside, which
um,
I, which I'm kind of wanting to go down there and see it. Go on the boardwalk and see it from that angle.
Let's see here. Let's see if I can find a picture of that.
Okay.
I had a really good one earlier that I saw, but um, where was it? I was just looking at it before the show. Um,
But while you're looking for that picture, I'll just go ahead and tell the audience that
yeah.
during the time that they were uh, uh, rehabbing the part of the ship that was actually below the waterline, they built what's called a coffers dam around the ship and pumped all the water out and mud and the silt and everything to where it could get to where it needed to be repaired. And while they were repairing the ship is when they built this boardwalk around the ship. And when you get over on the what would be the starboard side of the ship, uh, there are signs that says "Watch your step." Now, the reason that there's signs that says "Watch your step," I mean the boardwalk. There's nothing wrong with it. It's level. It's beautiful, plenty of room, but it goes right over the marsh. And if you're familiar with marshland, there's all kind of little creepy crawly death noodles that tend to hang out there. And when I say death noodles, I mean uh, snakes and
Alligators.
alligators. Things that go bump in the night and daytime. And so there's signs that says watch your step. And I'm not fond of snakes by no means, but that's not going to stop me from going and enjoying what they've done, and it shouldn't stop anybody else either. You had any luck, Chris?
No, I'm still working. Go ahead and keep talking about your story here.
Okay. Well, the um, the last time that I was on board the ship was May of 2011, and my wife and I had went down uh, to the beach to it was our anniversary weekend, and it had been a long time since we had gotten a chance to go anywhere on our anniversary. So we went down there and spent 3 or 4 days, and uh, she wanted to go to gift shops and all like that. And the only thing I want to do is go to the battleship. And so, like the third day we were there, she said, "All right, you win. We'll go to the boat and spend the day over there." And we had some experiences while we were on board. I'll get into it here in a little bit later as to what we experienced.
So there you go. Um, if you look around the exterior, far exterior, you'll see the boardwalk is right next to the green part on the map. And then you see like the gift shop on the left hand side. Um, then you see beside that you see those coffer dams he was talking about, which are right there in closer to the ship. But they had the boardwalk that went all the way around the ship from the gift shop all the way from the stern, or actually from the bow to the stern, so you can see it from the left from the port side as well.
Yeah, it's really neat the way they've done it and got it set up. Like I said, I haven't been down there since they built it, but I've seen plenty of pictures, and I'm looking forward to going down there and seeing it, in person. Now, just imagine the size of that boat. Here you are, the enemy of the United States during World War II, and you go to bed one night and everything's nice and clear, and uh, no enemy in sight. You feel confident that everything's going to be all right for at least a little while. And you wake up and that big son of a gun parked up in your front yard with all them guns trained on you. She's a very intimidating looking ship
Oh
in
yeah.
that aspect. But if you if you love history like I do, and you love uh, especially naval history, uh, it takes on a different view in a way. It becomes from an intimidating, ominous looking object to a big, beautiful, uh, at the time, state of the art uh, battle wagon.
Yeah, I mean it's a mechanical marvel. I mean,
Exactly. And
all the parts that it took to build that thing and keep it going, and all the fuel that it burned because it burned diesel. I mean,
yep. And the computers that was on there. I mean, here we are. I'm using a laptop sitting here in front of me, and it's maybe a foot wide and maybe 9 inches wide. And the computers on board the ship took up a whole room,
yeah,
and the way they would use the computers to train the guns to where they needed them.
the targeting computers.
Is it's just for, like I said, she was state of the art for its time. And they say those big 16-inch guns, when they fired the shells, it was the equivalent to firing a Volkswagen Beetle 20 miles. So
Right.
she had a range. Those big guns had a range of 20 miles out.
Let's see
So
here.
that's like
Um,
that's like sitting in Orange County and firing a shell, and it landed in Guilford County.
right.
So
Um, so there you see a couple of the shells from the 16-inch guns, which they're not as big as a Volkswagen, but they weighed equivalent to a Volkswagen. They
mm,
use they use those on the 16-inch guns. Now they're using them as basically as fence posts.
so now the powder bags that they used, it took six, if I'm not mistaken, it was six 90-pound bags of powder to fire those big guns. So that's a little oomph right there. And at the time, it's kind of funny. The USS North Carolina uh, impressed me so much that when I come out of high school, I tried to join the Navy because at the time the Iowa class battleships like the USS Iowa, Missouri, Wisconsin, and New Jersey, those are the Iowa class battleships. They were still in service, and I wanted to be the guy in the fire control room that squeezed the trigger on those big guns, and it never come to fruition. So, but it don't cost a penny to dream, does it, Chris?
Not at all. Not at all.
So, well, are you ready to get into this?
Um, so yeah, I could see where you might want to fire those big boys. Speaking of the main guns, the whole purpose of our show tonight, today, actually, we're recording it today during the daytime, was we're trying to discuss whether the ship's haunted or not. Well, if you think about it, when those main guns that you see on the screen right now fired, the shockwave was so much that if anybody was on deck when they fired, it would literally blow them off the side of the deck or shatter their eardrums or even kill them because of the shockwave. So my theory was like, yeah, it would have to be haunted because there had to have been some accidents that happened during during wartime when those guns were fired.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. Now it's funny you mentioned the fact of the shockwave from the big guns because it reminds me of the movie Under Siege with Steven Seagal and Tommy Lee Jones,
Right?
where they were on the way to back to I guess it was Pearl Harbor, and they were going to decommission. Uh, the USS Missouri. That's where the um, movie takes place on board, and they're they fired the big 16-inch guns, and it blows Tommy Lee Jones back. He was on the weather deck when they fired him. It blows him back probably 50, 60 feet, and he winds up sliding into the bulkhead wall and all like that. And he gets up and he's staggering around holding his ears, and the concussion from the blast of the guns altered was supposed to have altered his thought process.
Yeah,
And he's walking staggering along holding his ears, and he's like Daffy Duck, Porky Pig, short little redhead fart runs around with a big chicken, and he's shaking his head the whole time.
yeah.
And it's kind of, just that part kind of tickled me. But when you said the shockwave, that's what popped into my head. Um, but there's videos on YouTube where when the Iowa class battleships were in service and deployed, um, it was like the carriers or the destroyers would be alongside of her, either to the stern or to the bow of her, while they were having fire training on it.
Yeah.
And there's videos of the big guns firing from that point of view, and you see the smoke, you see the fireball, and then you hear the explosion. And it's kind of it's kind of weird. You would think you would hear it would be the other way around, hear the explosion first, but no, you see the light and the smoke, and then or the smoke, the fire, then the explosion. So,
Big old guns, huh?
mm-hmm,
Then they had the smaller guns, and then the anti-aircraft 30 millimeter anti-aircraft guns.
mm-hmm. They were actually called pom pom guns.
Yeah.
Um, when my oldest son, uh, when he went down there with my dad and his step grandma, he they were touring the ship, and she got up into one of those pom pom guns and got stuck. She couldn't get out, and they left her sitting there for probably 15, 20 minutes because they couldn't do anything to help her for laughing at her. So uh, that's kind of another little funny story there. But no, the to give you kind of a little bit of a uh, basis on what the USS North Carolina's duties were. She was the first of what they call the fast battleships. Uh, During this time, she was actually built to fight ship to ship,
Okay.
but that never transpired except for one time, and it was a cargo ship that she sunk. The What she mainly did was uh, shore bombardments with this big,
Shelled enemy emplacements.
exactly, and protect the aircraft carriers. She started out protecting the USS Enterprise, and when the Enterprise got hit, she returned back to Pearl Harbor for repairs. So she picked up escorting and protecting the USS Wasp, which was another aircraft carrier.
Okay.
So she was never ship to ship type of gunfire battle or whatnot. Um, she was the fourth warship in the United States Navy to be named for the state of North Carolina. Her call sign was BB 55. She was the first newly constructed American battleship to enter the service during World War II and took part in every major naval offensive in the Pacific theater of operations. She earned 15 battle stars, and which made her the most decorated battleship of World War II. She was declared a National Historical Landmark in 1986 and is now a museum ship and memorial that's docked at the the seaport of Wilmington, North Carolina,
Cape Fear River.
and the Cape Fear River. The USS North Carolina's primary role was protecting, like I said, the aircraft carriers. She served in every major Pacific battle during the war, and the total battle stars she won was 15. With a crew complement of 1,880 men, nine 16-inch guns, 25-inch guns, 16 1.1 millimeter machine guns, and 12 50 caliber machine guns. She was the most formidable weapon of any naval arsenal at the time. The first time there's a story that the first time she actually opened fire with like everything was during a air raid. The Japanese were trying to sink our carriers, and she produced so much gunfire in a short amount of time that the captain of the USS Enterprise radioed the USS North Carolina, whose call sign was Showboat because she was new, state of the art, and she was the quote unquote showboat of the Navy. Well, make a long story short, the Enterprise captain radioed the USS North Carolina and asked him, was he on fire? And the captain of the North Carolina come back over the radio and said, hell no, we're just blowing out the cobwebs.
Love it.
So now, on September the 15th, 1942, off the coast of Iwo Jima and Okinawa, somewhere in between there, at 14:52 hours, the Japanese Imperial Navy sub, the I-19, launched a six torpedo spread which struck the aircraft carrier USS Wasp, sinking her. One struck the USS O'Brien, which was a heavy destroyer, and also sinking her. The North Carolina was struck on her port side under the front uh, gun battery that created a hole 32 feet by 18 feet
Wow.
20 feet below the waterline. During this attack, it killed five men that were in the shower area and injured 23 others. Now, in a grand total, grand scheme of things, during the whole entire time she was in service during the war, it was only 10 men total lost on the North Carolina during World War II. And like I said, five of those was from the result of the torpedo hit. Now, when she was able, once this torpedo hit, the damage control did an excellent job. They managed to seal off the compartments, counter flood the other side of the ship, and she remained on station, steaming at 23 knots until she was relieved to go back to Pearl Harbor for repair. Now, there is a lot of things that uh, paranormal that goes on board this ship.
Oh yeah.
Um, I told you I'd tell y'all some of the experiences that my wife and I had. Uh, we were down in the galley area, and we were coming into the bakery where they made the bread and whatnot. And when you're out at sea on board a ship like that, everything if it's food, you got to fix everything there. If it breaks, you have a mechanical room with all kinds of metalworking machines to be able to fix it. You're self-supporting. But we were in the bakery, and you could smell, just like it had come out of the oven, fresh baked bread, and it was strong. I mean, it smelled like, you know you should be able to look on the counter and see a fresh baked loaf of bread there.
That seems to be a recurring theme for you and Ghost. Fresh baked bread.
I know, right? Maybe it's because I'm a fat boy. I don't know, but um, the the we went a little bit further on, and we were the only ones in this area. We were by where the uh, doctor's office and the sick bay was, and it was like you could very faintly hear it, but you could hear somebody moaning. And I,
I heard that when I went there one time, right there about the surgeon's surgery
hmm
area.
yep, that's where we were at. And folks, I ain't talking about when I say moaning. I'm not talking about what you see on TV that goes woo type moaning. It was painful moans, like somebody had been shot and was taken to sick bay to get the bullet removed. Um, Very haunting, very creepy. In fact, I'm getting goosebumps talking about it. Um, we continued our tour, and everything was fine until we got down to the lower part of the ship where the engine room was at. And in the engine room, it's not a solid floor, but it's like a steel grate that you walk
Right,
on.
like a catwalk.
Exactly, and you can actually look down and see the kill of the ship. And again, we were the only ones down there, and we heard footsteps. And I just assumed maybe it was somebody else that was touring the ship at the time. And my wife, she told me that she hears footsteps. I said, "Yeah, it's probably someone coming up behind us for taking the tour." And she said, "No, there's nobody but down here but us.
Huh?
We're the only ones in this section." And when she said that, the light right over where we were standing went out.
Yeah,
Now, whether that was paranormal, the light going out, I don't know.
paranormal or electrical.
Now, and we got up on deck right there we were on the bow of the ship where there's a row of machine guns on either side of the ship. And while we were up there, again, we could hear moaning. And again, like I said, it wasn't the ghost uh, movie moans. It was, you know, painful, like somebody had been shot. But once you get on board on the up towards the bow of the ship, the tour is almost over with, unless you're taking one of the guided tours, and we didn't do that. So that was the last experience we had on that ship. Um, Now, some of the reports that people have made being on the ship is there's a young blonde man that walks the passages of the ship. Don't know if he's officer or just a regular crewman. Uh, a different spirit peers out of the portholes of the ship occasionally. One of the spirits had actually hitched a ride with one of the visitors of the ship. Talk about an unsuspected surprise.
Right.
Uh, the hatches and the doors open or close by themselves. Now, if anyone who has not been on a ship like this, the hatches and the doors on these ships
Or heavy
are heavy. They're huge. They're made to, once they're shut and locked, to be watertight.
and more or less bulletproof.
And exactly. So the average Joe, the average Joe Blow is going to have trouble moving uh, these hatches and doors. Some of the televisions that they have in there and lights will turn on and off by themselves. Witnesses have reported things on the shelves inside of some of the staterooms moving by themselves, and the spirits that are there, they don't hesitate to make themselves known.
No, they don't.
You can hear talking and sometimes even yelling Um, and of course, you got the cold spots and the footsteps, and you know, I'm sure there's other, eerily experiences. Uh, Now, the security guard that worked there for about 30 plus years, his name is Danny Bradshaw. Uh, he actually, when he was security guard, he actually lived on board the ship. And he wrote a book about his experiences on board the ship. The name of the book is Ghosts of the USS North Carolina. And it's full of ghost stories and ghostly escapades that Danny had experienced while his time on board. Now, this thing is so this ship, as far as the paranormal side is concerned, outside of the historical facts of it, uh, it has brought the interest to various paranormal investigative teams.
Yeah,
Uh,
actually, I saw something online not too long ago. They were trying to one of those teams was trying to put together a trip to the North Carolina, but they were wanting to charge people to go with them and help them investigate. It was like $80 to $100. It was like crazy expensive.
yeah.
I
Now,
don't remember where I saw that, but it was somewhere I saw that online.
yeah. Now, the TAPS organization. I don't know if y'all remember that TV show or not. They've been there. Port City Paranormal has investigated there. And there's a trio known as just the paranormal investigators uh, has investigated there. That's just to name a few who's visited and captured evidence of the spirits that are still roaming the decks.
Well, I saw like when you go on the tours there, you go to all the different places. Like you see the store and the barber shop and the medical bay and the radio room and this, that, and the other. And usually they've got wax figures there
Mm-hmm.
that as part of the diorama to demonstrate what happened there. Well, I went to this one spot. It was near the barber shop actually, and I'm standing there looking and everything, and like, okay, that's pretty cool. That's a really cool soldier's figure that was standing up in a World War II outfit. Um, I'm like, yeah, that's pretty cool. That's really like a lifelike looking wax figure. Until he turned his head and moved, and I'm like, what? What did I just see? I thought it was a wax figure the whole time, but apparently it was an apparition.
Now, the cool thing of it is, during certain times of the year, they have reenactors come on board, and they'll teach you you know, they're assigned, just say, for instance, fire control, and they will take you to the fire control room and show you uh, the procedures and whatnot of firing the 16-inch guns, the 5-inch guns, or whatnot, and you learn more about the ship that way, which I think is pretty cool.
Well,
But the
this
only
definitely was not a reenactor.
Yeah,
This was off season and nothing going on, no events going on. That it was just a general tour that we took.
I got you. Now it's kind of funny you said that because on the Taps episode, I don't know if y'all have ever seen it or not, but they're touring the ship and they come across one of those wax figures, and one of the investigators just stops dead in his tracks, and it's the look of holy crap on his face. And the other investigator that's with him asking me he says, "Hey Steve, what's the matter? You all right?" And he looks at him. The Steve looks at the other guy and says, "I'm not sure, but I think that son of a bitch just winked at me." So, but yeah. Now, one other cool thing about this is during the month of October, the ship offers the haunted ghost ship ghost tours. Now it's really up to you to decide, was that shadow figure a theatrical production or was it a ghost? So the USS North Carolina is full of history and full of haunts.
And intrigue and mystery.
Exactly. So if you're if you're like me and you like history and you're interested in paranormal, well, this is your having your cake and eating it too type of thing. Extra icing on the cake type thing. Um, I would highly recommend going if you're not interested in the paranormal. Go for the history. If you're
Oh
not
yeah,
in,
for sure.
if you're more interested in the paranormal than the history, then go for the paranormal. I guarantee you, at some point in time during your trip on and your time on board, you're going to have something, whether you realize it or not. So,
I'm
well,
gonna add a layer here. So bear with me 1 second. So you were saying?
yeah, there's various videos on YouTube where some of the paranormal investigation teams have went on board and videoed it and posted it on Facebook, or not Facebook, but YouTube. And you can watch those and just kind of get an idea of what you would be getting into, uh, and see what goes on. There was one that actually caught a apparition of a what looked like an officer standing behind him over his shoulder. It's more of a shadow figure type thing.
Right.
Then, but you can definitely tell because that it's an officer because of the shadow of the hat that he was wearing. It's like I call them the old bus driver hats. Um, I don't know the appropriate military name for them, uh, but just in the search bar, just type in haunted USS North Carolina, and it'll give you a whole who's who of videos to choose from. And the cool thing, do you remember when they had the light and sound show
Oh
there at
yeah.
the battle? I used to love going to that, and that in itself, even though you were sitting outside on bleachers and watching it, at night it gives the ship a eerie persona.
Yeah. It really does.
So the first time I ever seen the sound and light show there, I knocked my mom off the bleachers. They were telling it tells the history of the ship and everything, and the battles that she was in and whatnot. And it come to the part where they get torpedoed. Well, I don't know what they used to set off the explosion for the torpedo, but it was loud and it sprayed water. And when it went off, I jumped. And when I jumped, I bumped my mother and knocked my mother off the bleacher. Luckily, we wasn't that high up, or she'd have probably got seriously hurt. We were like on the third row,
Right.
but but I knocked my mom off the bleacher. So, but go for it, people. Go check it out. I highly
Def-
recommend it.
Definitely. So at our inception of our Carolina Creepers and Oddities podcast, we originally started out as an audio only podcast. Then about 6 months in, we went to uh, audio and video format, which this is our video format, obviously, where we post on YouTube and stream live to Facebook and whatnot. My original intent was to include in our stable of topics conspiracy theories, but as it is, there's not so much that we have to do with just paranormal stuff, Bigfoot, UFOs, things like that. That that kind of got pushed to the wayside. So what I'm doing now what we're doing now is starting probably December, maybe January. We're launching a third show or a third podcast called Enigma Theory. It's the Enigma Theory podcast, and basically what we're doing with it is It's going to be audio and video, just like this one, but it's separate from the Carolina Creepers and Oddities. It's a separate show, and we're just going to cover all the popular conspiracy theories that from who shot JFK all the way to do aliens exist and what's really at Area 51. So yeah, it's going to be Enigma Theory podcast, and our tagline is unraveling the world's greatest conspiracies. And like I said, that's coming soon.
And I'm looking forward to that because I want to know if JFK is really living in the upstairs of Graceland.
He's roommates with Elvis.
Now,
But if you ask Tommy Lee Jones, Elvis is still alive. He just went home.
yeah, exactly. So as the car flips upside down. But
Right.
anyhow, well, folks, that's all I've got for today. Unless Chris has got anything else he wants to mention.
No, you pretty much did a good job of covering it. So
Now,
I would.
do we have the buy us a cup of coffee QR code for this one also?
No, I did not have a chance to build it into the software this time, but you can go to our website at www.carolinacreepers.com, and there's links for donations if you choose to help us out with the show.
And we would greatly appreciate it. We never charge anything for any of our shows. But if you do feel the need, the money goes towards improving our equipment, being able to go out and do some actual on-scene investigations. We want to go to Lydia's Bridge, there right outside of Greensboro,
Yeah,
North Carolina, and a bunch of other places we'd like to go. Uh, it could go to help me get a haircut, and so I don't look like reject from Duck Dynasty. But yeah, if you feel the urge, we would greatly appreciate it.
yeah, definitely. Hosting cost for production is pretty expensive every month too, so that's a
Mm,
big thing. The hosting for the software and the hosting for the web for the podcast as well, and the
yeah,
websites.
yeah, it sounds like a paranormal motorcycle just went by.
Oh well, probably.
Yeah.
I
Well,
live I live right off of Highway 64. It literally runs through my front door. So
yeah, well, you live off a highway. I live where they film an episode of Live
cop
PD every week. So
cops.
yeah. So, but folks, we hope you enjoyed the show. And if there's something you'd like for us to talk about or investigate, uh, you can send us an email or contact us on our website, uh, and just let us know what you want us to talk about.
Yeah, definitely.
And
And if you join our after hour show when we do our after dark Carolina Creepers after dark, you can actually uh, you can actually join in on the Facebook chat and the YouTube chats and whatnot, and talk to us live while we're on the air. Like I said,
yeah,
this week was due to scheduling was being pre-recorded, but normally we try to do everything live.
yeah, it does seem to be more fun when it's live because you the audience adds to the show more than what you would think.
Oh yeah, for sure.
So we welcome anybody, comments, questions, and like I said, if you want us to investigate something and have it on the show, we're open to any ideas.
Yeah, definitely.
So, now we had talked about now y'all send us an email or a comment or whatnot and tell us what you think of this idea. We had actually talked about expanding outside of North Carolina and South Carolina with the ghostly tales. Like maybe going talking to people in Virginia, Georgia.
Yeah,
Staying here on the East Coast, you know, but just expanding the territory, so to speak.
right. Because that
Um,
was our original plan was North and South Carolina stories.
Now, and but like for instance, Gettysburg, Pennsylvania is just full of haunts. Uh, Fredericksburg, full of haunts. Uh, yes, South Carolina's got a bunch. It's North Carolina, they've got them, but it seems like they're more there's more outside of this North Carolina versus uh, here in the state.
Well,
Now, however, I'm not. That's not to say that people don't have their own personal experiences, like in their home or whatnot, like that.
right.
I'm sure that happens, but as far as something known or popular or whatever, it seems like it's more out of North Carolina, to me anyway.
Yeah. Well, I mean, even so, Gettysburg is not too far out of the realm of possibility because we take our we make our annual privilege or can't talk today. Our annual pilgrimage to Mecca every year when we go to Gettysburg for the firefighters. So it's not out of the realm of possibility for us to do a show there or record
Abs-
something there.
Absolutely, absolutely, and I would really like to do that. So, um, who knows? Who knows what we'll get?
Never can tell.
No. Well, folks, again, I hope you've enjoyed the show, and thank you to my partner Chris for doing another outstanding job. And we'll see you on the next show, folks.
See you next time.
Happy Thanksgiving.